who have enslaved us for the past 500 years. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense to uh, that doesn't make sense to non-black people, and that's why they think we're ridiculous and they think we're stupid. Okay, now let's just talk about some of the how we got to the place, or how we came to the place where we are worshiping uh, the way we do today. Why, how the black church came to be, and the like. But first, let me put out some information here. Those of you who want to listen online, go to blogtalkradio.com/The Iceman Show. If you want to call in and speak with the Iceman, the number is area code 347-945-7663. Again, the guest call in line is area code 347-945-7663. You tuned in to the Iceman Show. I'm your host, the Iceman, giving you less talk, less rhetoric, and more information. So basically, how we became Christians and Catholics, it was obviously something that took place during the enslavement period. Okay, and what ended up happening and how was it introduced to us? Basically, I encourage everyone to go out and see the movie, The Book of Eli. If you haven't seen that movie, I urge you to see that movie. That movie is very powerful, which is why it wasn't well received by a whole lot of people, because it spoke the truth. And I'm so glad that Denzel and the Hughes brothers put that movie out, because that movie speaks volumes, and it basically talks about, or shows you how powerful religion is, and how you can control people when you introduce things to people and beat them over the head with it, you know, for, extended periods of time. After a while, they're going to buy into it, which is what indigenous people have done all over the world, as well as, African people. Okay? That's just what we did. And it's, but when I was, putting this show together, you know, being that I had to, I wanted to broadcast 2 hours earlier here at 4 p.m. Central, uh, there were some things that I ended up some things I found on the internet right before the broadcast that, kind of blew my mind. But anyway, how was it introduced to us was through our slave masters. And some of our slave masters were so-called ministers, men of the cloth. Some of them weren't. But what they did do is they allowed the reason why they allowed Christianity and Catholicism on the plantations. First of all, they noticed it had a pacifying effect on their black slaves. And so what they did is what they went ahead and done was pretty much they got they got a black man, usually somebody from out of the field, that, kind of was like the leader, or considered a respected leader, in, a person as a respected leadership position. And obviously they kept all the slaves illiterate, so they couldn't read, and obviously they weren't going to read the Bible. So what he did is they what they would do is get a white local preacher to basically tell these black ministers what to tell the black slaves. And obviously, and then some of them were allowed to attend so-called, impromptu church services. And obviously, the pictures of so-called Jesus on the walls were of white males. The typical Michelangelo painting of a white Jesus. Okay. Uh, which is where that picture comes from. I mean, he looks like one of the Doobie Brothers. I mean, this guy, this guy is supposed to be Jesus. Well, he looks to me like one of the Doobie Brothers. Okay, taking it to the street. Okay, do you want Doobie in your Christianity? I don't know. Maybe you do. A lot of black folks over the last 400 years have had pictures of white Jesus in their house. So what does that tell you? Okay, but the black preacher was giving these oral sermons and teachings to give to the black slaves, and they foamed at the mouth and wanted to someday die and float up into heaven, foam at the mouth, and die and go up, float up into heaven, and sit at the foot of white Jesus. And most of us, because we don't apply common sense, we fell for this mumbo jumbo and sorcery. We fell for this nonsense, and but then we sit up here and we see that even though we still have a white Jesus, and even though we're allowed to, believe these ridiculous rantings from this jackleg preacher that, couldn't read, but yet, he was allowed to espouse what was in the so-called Holy King James version of the Bible, and we bought into that. And then some 500 years later, we sit here and we see that we are in the same condition that we were in 500 years ago. And I don't even know why you guys are surprised. I don't know why black people got surprised when black people get shot in the street for no reason. Rodney King got beat in the street for no reason. Okay? Some black woman in Riverside got shot up in her car. Okay? A few years back. Nothing was initially done in the Trayvon Martin case, and yet all of you black church-going black folks excuse me, were surprised that these things were taking place. Okay, the Iceman was not surprised. You know why the Iceman wasn't surprised? Because Iceman understands that he lives in North America. Okay? I'm a black man in North America. I live behind enemy lines, and so do you. And it seems that black people have to have something bad happen to them for them to be reminded that you weren't brought here to be in the capacity that you're in. You were brought over here for free labor. You were brought over here for sexual gratification, for aristocratic white slave owners and landowners, and to provide free labor and then entertainment. That's what you were brought here for. And for some reason, every few years, you have to be reminded that that's what you were brought over here for. Not to be going to school, and not to be working jobs, not to be complaining at work and yelling at white folks in Walmart or anywhere else. You're not supposed to be able to do that. You're not supposed to have any rights because you're property, and they still see you as property. Okay? And for some reason, you forgot you living behind enemy lines. So you have to get a nigga wake up call every few years, or whenever you get yours, to remind you that you're living behind enemy lines and that you are not really wanted here other than to provide free labor and entertainment. Okay? You don't want to slam dunk a basketball, hit home runs, or run for touchdowns, or get win gold medals in the Olympics. We have no use for you, which is why the majority of black people in this country live at or below the poverty line. Okay? A minimum of 70% of African Americans live in poverty. That's not by accident. Okay? That's an institutional social construct that was designed to oppress you and to keep you down. Okay? And yet, you still have white folks denying that exists. Okay? That's cool. Let them deny it. Okay? That's fine. Let them deny it. Okay? But one day there will be an accounting. There will be an accounting, and there will be a day of reckoning. And you're not going to have anything to do with it because God's going to handle it. Okay? So, this whole ridiculous rhetoric of, first of all, let's get something straight. We all know God created the black man and the black woman first. Okay? Hands down. Okay? Now, if God created us first, what does that make us? That means he made us in his image, which means God is black, which means that we should be an Afrocentric planet, but we are not. We are a Eurocentric planet, which is why we have nothing but problems because it's antithetical to what God's plan is for this planet. So everything that white people do, and like I said, I'm not throwing white people on the bus. I'm just telling the truth. So everything that the white man does is counter to what God has set forth, which means that he is